Okay, hello again, everyone. This speech is about Liberia. You don't need to start taking notes yet. I just wanted to give a brief introduction first. This speech is a bit more descriptive than the last one, but I'll try and not have it just be a whole long list of names and facts, which, as we all know, is not always the best material to interpret from. But I'll be talking about a brief history of the founding of the country and some of the things I saw on a documentary about it. And I'll begin now. Ladies and gentlemen, I recently watched a fascinating documentary about the West African country, Liberia. This was a country I really didn't know much about. I knew it was English speaking. I knew that the capital was Monrovia, though I did have to double check for this speech. And I sat down to this documentary because I saw something on the internet that I found rather fascinating and unbelievable. As it turns out, there was an attempt in the 19th century for a certain sector of American society to colonize Liberia. And it wasn't just any part of society, it was freed African American slaves. That's right. In 1822, the American Colonization Society headed for what's known as the Pepper Coast to Liberia to set up what would be an American colony. I think it's pretty amazing for us to think of people that had been through so much heading across the ocean to enslave part of the population there, because that's what happened. They made slaves of the native Liberians. And this carried on for a long time, for many generations. The ruling elite was American Liberian, right up until the assassination of then President William Tolbert. He had his power and his life wrested from him by the native Liberian Samuel Doe, which was already rather momentous, and it was also a difficult time across the whole of West Africa. But then the country saw successive waves of ever more violent coups and civil war and uprising. But I'd like to focus here for a moment on the reign of Samuel Doe, someone who was featured quite prominently in this documentary was a spiritual advisor of his. Someone who advised him that eating the flesh of children would bring strength to him and indeed to his army. And this was really a big focus in the documentary, which was called The Cannibal Warlords of Liberia. Now, Samuel Doe, in addition to practicing cannibalism, also had a close friend called Prince Johnson, who would later go on to overthrow him in helping and supporting Charles Taylor. So you can see that really one thing almost led to another in Liberia. With the assassination of William Tolbert, Samuel Doe comes into power. He is aided by Prince Johnson, who believes that eating children's flesh will lend strength to their army. But then Prince Johnson allies with Charles Taylor, who was American educated, to try and take power. The reason the documentary focused on all of this was that it was filmed back in 2013, when Charles Taylor was being tried by the International Criminal Court for crimes of war and crimes against humanity, but not, strangely enough, in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, the neighboring Sierra Leone, where he had also led to uprisings. And Charles Taylor is currently serving a 50-year prison sentence for his crimes. And during all this time, there were cannibal warlords at work in Liberia. You may have noticed the somewhat comical nature of some of the names I gave you earlier. These were names chosen by the warlords so they could avoid repercussions in future if they were ever caught. Hence, you had General Mosquito, and in retaliation and trying to claim his territory, he had an enemy decide to call himself General Mosquito Spray, which I think we can all agree lends a touch of brilliance to this rather brutal reality. I know that as a young girl, when I was bothering my brother, I wish he had been called Mosquito and I had been called Mosquito Spray. And then there was General Butt Naked, who, you'll be pleased to hear, has since then gone on to repent, has converted to Christianity, and now works to provide aid to young people in Liberia, a country that, though it has made great strides under the presidency of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, is still ranked the world's 136th most prosperous country, which is to say, nowhere near the top. Though the UN has tried to make a difference, a great deal still remains to be done for the country that's greatly lacking infrastructure and access to education and proper healthcare and sanitation. So let's all hope that its bloody past is firmly behind it and that the country can move forward. Thank you.